Hello, my friends, and welcome back to Learning Torah Lishma. I was speaking with my Rebbe, Big Tzaddik, one of the hidden tzaddikim, and with his Avodas Hashem, his real Avodas Hashem, having the balance in life, not just learning, but also working on his midas, on his bitachon, having a proper balance. He's already now very old, but full of vigor, and he is unique that he doesn't just have a koyach habracha in certain areas, like certain tzaddikim, this area they have a koyach habracha, and in other areas they don't, but he has a general koyach habracha in all areas. But not only that, he has a koyach habracha when it comes to shidduchim, which is unique. Now, he was, as I'm talking to him, he just tells me, a story, but people without realizing, this is things that happen to him, Ma'aseh b'chol yom. So he's just he's just talking, but this is not like something out of the ordinary by him. So let me tell you this story. It just made me feel very sad. He says there was a few people that came to him, that called him, that I think there was like 2 or 3 boys around 28, and there was a girl that was 35, not married. Can imagine, very sad. And he gave them a bracha. Within a short time later, each one of them went out, which is just to get a date, to physically meet a girl or meet a boy. It's like Kriyas Yamsuf, it's like God splitting the Red Sea today to just go out with someone. Even for people with, the best resume, learning at BMG, it could take a week, 2 weeks until you actually get to meet the girl. And that's without even seeing a picture of her. And hopefully, she looks good, you understand? So, and for a girl, and then you have to check if she's actually a nice person, and v'chule, v'chule, v'chule. You understand? And for girls, it's very difficult. The boys, they want money, and you basically have to figure out how to lie about the money aspect. And then once they marry you, and there was cohabitation, there's no going back from there. You have to be a really nasty girl to, that if for a boy to want to get, it's you understand, or messed up. I wouldn't, there's for sure messed up ones. They're so messed up from the system. So, but usually that it'd have to be that you did something. That you're just not a nice. You're a nasty person. Because once there's cohabitation, to now get a divorce and now be a divorcee, now trying to get a date, and now not being able to do it, cohabitation in the interim is not an option. You understand? There's no going back. There is no such thing as living life not being married, not, you understand? And especially when it happens, there is no going back. So, and that's for both parties. Women's, for some reason, it seems that they have in their minds, they think that they could tolerate that more not having it than men. So the boy, they actually get on a date with a girl, and even this 35, these three boys, and they get married. You know, they get engaged. They're engaged now. And then there's this girl that's 35. She goes on a date, and she never had it that that she went on 5 dates with the same boy, and usually they leave her. You know, I don't know if it's her looks, or maybe she's not so nice. I don't, you know, like a nasty person. I don't know exactly the scenario, but she goes on 5 dates with the same boy. That means that the boy is interested, and the boy actually, you know, asked her if, you know, I guess on the 5th date, because that's so many dates, and then she said no, right? I guess on the 5th date he thought that now's the time to ask. You know, everything is going good for 5 dates, and a you know, or you know, in a from app world, that's like a lot of dates. You know, that's already appropriate to ask. You know, would you consider me for marriage? You know, it's already the time. So just to answer, that's normal. So you understand. Someone coming from maybe a secular world, you could wait 6 months, whatever it is. You understand? The Jewish, after a few dates, the question, and you see that you like each other, the question is asked. You understand? And she said no, and he just said the story, and I'm like, I was in my mind, I'm like, oh, Baruch Hashem, now she's getting married, but that no just like came. And I'm like, I went back. I'm like, oh, what, I'm sorry, Rebbe. What did she say? You said you went on 5 dates, and so they're getting married. What did you say happened? She said no. Breaks my heart. A girl's 35. At 35, it's already the ability to have children greatly. That's when it really hits the egg sacs, that their ability to germinate. When you hit age 35, it's like when it really goes down. And also, how many kids could she have? You understand? She's already 35. And she says no. And they went on 5 dates, so if she didn't like him, then she wouldn't have gone on 5 dates with him. And obviously, she did like him. So what? You know, we talked about this, but it's very hard for people to say yes. They're so trained to say no, to be negative, to be suspicious, to think people are bad. You know, especially people that are, regular from Jews. You know, why are you thinking that there's something unsafe here? There's something dangerous. You understand? And she's 35, so I'm guessing, you know, I can't imagine someone at the age of 35 is still thinking like a child. It could be, it could be. But I'm guessing just life itself forced her already to be a woman. And she said no. So she said no, and the tzaddik, one of the hidden tzaddikim in the world, they brought her the Yeshua. They brought her salvation. But the bad character in her, we're not blaming her. We're not saying it's her fault. It's not for us to judge. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Maybe it's half her fault. Maybe it's 75% her fault. The point is not to judge her. The whole point is that I feel so bad for her. And I'm sure everybody that's listening to this feels very bad. You know, a girl that's 35, she goes on a date, she likes the boy, but she can't bring herself to say the 3-letter word, yes. Yes, even better to say, yes, my dear. You understand? She can't bring herself to say it. it would seem that maybe this is why she wasn't married until 35, because she's always saying no. The system made her be so scared, saying you have to do resume, you have to do all these things because they could be dangerous. They made her so scared. You have to understand, girls get more affected by this, that she can't say yes. She's always nervous. So sad, so sad. That's why, when we have these shiurim, these Jewish classes, and people think that it's okay, I'll just go with the system, I'm not going to improve. They don't take it seriously, what it means to work on your midas, to learn musar, to learn ethics and work on your character trait, to realize that for sure we're not perfect. For sure there's people making mistakes. Otherwise, if we're 100%, why are we here? We're here to get better and better. And we have a little harder job, that we have to go from many detrimental things that we're doing to positive. But once we hit positive, we have to become more positive and more positive. We have to be that we're not fighting against, not without realizing, hurting people, but we have to work that we're helping people, but really we can help them more. That should be what we're working on doing. We're so far from this. Especially in the Jewish class that we just gave. I think it's 116 or 117. We talk about peace. It's so important to work on your midas, to take the time, so we don't end up like this. This person filled with negativity, suspicion that that people are bad. Just this being this negative force, and not just hurting other people, but hurting yourself. It's so sad. It hurts me to the core that this happened. It's just... We have to know. We have to know that finding the truth, the real hashkafa, it's not just, if you want to do it, okay. It's a must. It's a must for you, your children. How many people have children and one after the next is going off the derech? A person themselves, he's starting to watch pornography, get involved in watch. You understand? For yourself also, how important it is to get the real Yiddish hashkafa. We talked about peace. Don't get into arguments of people teaching people the wrong hashkafa. That's not your place, right? If you become a big person and you have a community of that you train them in the correct way, and now from a position of power, you want to let people know the correct hashkafa. No need to sit and fight and argue with the person who thinks wrongly. But you want to put out there the right hashkafa. Absolutely. And even there you could have, debates, but when the person knows that it is a debate, not just some random person coming to you on the street and arguing with you, when it's like a real type of, professional debate. The person knows that it's not just something random, you're videoing it, it's a real thing. Because they're not interested in truth. They're just interested in keep on saying what their false way again and again until they brainwash you, until they just make you think you're crazy for thinking against them, even though what you're saying is the correct thing. And they're so fooled by the Yetzer or by the Satan that they actually think that they're doing the right thing. They're sticking up for the Shita Akdesha. And I'm not referring to like what Hasidim call Shita Akdesha, which in many cases that's also bad. But the Litvish think that they don't have the Shita Akdesha. Sephardim think that they don't have the Shita Akdesha. That's only by Hasidim, and sometimes that isn't good, the Shita Akdesha, what they hold. But I'm saying all the groups have the Shita Akdesha. Sephardim, Litvish, Hasidim, they all have it. They might not call it Shita, they might call it, Litvish, instead of calling it the Shita Akdesha, they call it Messiah. Whatever they did or their parents did is Messiah. That's how they call it the Shita Akdesha. To a certain extent, it's worse because the Shita Akdesha by Hasidim is what the Rebbe says, but by Litvish and Sephardim, the Shita Akdesha becomes what they say. You understand? What their parents said. It's every single person is saying Shita Akdesha to what they think. So it's even worse. You understand? To a certain extent. Different aspects of how to look at it. Because, Shita Akdesha, by when a Chassid's thinking it, it's harder to get him to break away from it. But when a Litvish is saying Shita Akdesha, it's also very hard, but it's easier to get him out of that brainwash, you understand? It's just, they use the word Messiah, but, all these different... Messiah really isn't referring to you and your father. It's referring to something, that goes back, 100 generations, you understand? Something that goes back a long time, and you understand, and it's not referring to something you or your grandfather did, you understand? It's not right to call that Messiah. You were knowing something, and sometimes it was wrong, or it's not the Yiddish Hashkafa. So this is extremely important, extremely, extremely important to take the lessons that we're teaching, and you really have to become it. You understand? What the Torah says, we really have to become it and get the eres of the Satan, the poison of the Satan that he put into Chava. I'm not going to, discuss the exact, but there's a Gemara Shabbos that talks about how to remove a nachash from a woman. You understand? This is what happened to Chava, and he put inside of her the zuhama of the nachash. He put inside of her. I'm not going to, but he put inside of her this zuhama, and it's goes in. It's this zuhama is what brought evil into us. It's a poison inside of us. And when we get the right Yiddish hashkafa in another area, and we start to live by it, we remove the zuham of the nachash. We remove it. We take it out. We cleanse ourselves. All of a sudden, when we have the right hashkafa, the right ideology, all of a sudden the love of Hashem starts to flow through us. We stop looking at people with these evil eye, which is one of the 5 worst character traits to have. We start looking at people in a positive way. Stop treating ourselves like a child, and we instead treat ourselves like an adult. All the blessing, all the bracha in life comes from this. May we become tremendous, positive people. May we become sensible yes people, not sensible no people. May the blessing, may the bracha of Hashem flow through us. And may we become a source of goodness in this world. I love you, and Hashem loves you more.